Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 17. It began that evening when I kept my promise to call Mason. Thinking that everything was fine after his humorous text, I greeted him in a teasing tone. "I got you something. I bet you can't guess what it is." "You called," he stated. "Yeah, you told me to," I reminded him. "Are you busy right now? Should I call back later?" "I told you to," he repeated. "And you didn't argue. Didn't complain that I was calling you while you were out with your friends. Thanked me for calling you, but acted like I caught you going out with another guy, and you were practically in tears last night with no explanation. You are hiding something from me, Ella, and I want to know what it is." My heart had almost stopped when he mentioned catching me with another guy, and I was glad that he couldn't see my face. "I'm not hiding anything," I said, but my voice sounded nervous and unconvincing. "I'm going to come over there right now, and you're going to tell me," he said in a threatening tone. "I love you," I blurted in panic. My heart hammered in my chest during the ensuing silence. I couldn't believe that I had said that to him, and my shocked mind couldn't think what to do now. "You love me?" he questioned in surprise and disbelief. "It's why I've been so messed up and stuff. Because it's crazy. I know it is. And Alice said so too, but she knows I didn't decide to. She wishes that I didn't, and I do too, because we can't ever get a fresh start like she says, because—" "Ella," he said, halting my rambling. "We can get a fresh start." "We can?" I asked in a daze. "Yes," he confirmed, his voice sounding smooth and seductive. "I'll give you back your poem and we'll start anew. Can I do that now? Can I come see you, Ella?" "Yes," I said, expelling the word on a shaky breath of nervous excitement. I couldn't wait to see him, and I knew that it wasn't because of getting back my poem. I had told him that I loved him, and it was like saying the words to him had freed the feeling inside me. I was soaring on it, and the knowledge that I would soon be in the presence of the one who made me feel this way. Fortunately, my parents were at a wedding for the daughter of Dad's best friend, so I was able to greet Mason with all the enthusiasm I was feeling. "Hi!" I exclaimed, the exhilaration of seeing him giving me the same high I had experienced at the concert. "Come in!" I urged, practically bouncing in my excitement as I stepped back so he could enter. An amused smile played over his lips, but his gaze was locked on me as he stepped inside. I handed him the little bag from the gift shop. "I got you this." He peered inside, but didn't take out the keychain. His eyes returned to me with that same intensity. "Thank you." His gaze stayed on me as he pulled a folded piece of paper out of his pocket. "Here's your poem." I took it and shoved it into my pocket to look at later. "Thanks," I said, starting to feel like his intense stare was stealing my breath. He moved in closer and reached out to caress my cheek as he spoke. "I want to hear you say it again." His seductive voice was like an intimate command, and I obeyed it, even a sudden shyness softened my voice. "I love you." His potent gaze held mine captive, but his voice shook. "You own me, Ella." His words sent an electric thrill through me. Then his mouth claimed mine in a possessive, bone-melting kiss that consumed me completely. When it ended, I was immediately drawn in again by the magnetic pull of his lips, but he stepped back from me. "You told me you love me today. That's what I want to remember." Heat smoldered in his eyes. "I'll kiss you again tomorrow, and every day after that." It was a promise that made happiness surge in my heart and burst forth into a happy smile on my face. Mason smiled back at me with dazzling brightness and warmth. "Good night, Ella," he said, and walked toward the door. "Good night, Mason," I responded as I followed him. He opened the door and gave me a parting look before walking out. I watched him get in his car and back out of the driveway. With a brief wave that I returned, he drove off. I shut the door in a blissful daze and leaned back against it with a happy sigh. Everything felt new and wonderful and perfect. The exhilaration returned and had me going upstairs to crank up some music in my room and dance in sheer joy. After expending some of the energy coursing through me and working up a sweat, I took a shower. It wasn't until much later that night that I remembered to retrieve my poem from the shorts I had thrown into the laundry hamper after undressing for my shower. I saw that Mason had indeed returned my poem to me, just like he said he would. There was nothing hanging over my head anymore, and it felt good not to have to keep anything hidden anymore. My feelings for Mason had been my secret shame for so long, and I tried to suppress them to no avail. Deep down inside, I'd still had hope that he would change his mind about me. A part of me had still believed that fate was drawing us together, and that he eventually wouldn't be able to resist its pull. The fact that I had lived in his house and found him years ago, and that we were now going to school together despite being born into vastly different circumstances, had validated that destiny wouldn't allow us to be apart. Now I had discovered that Mason had sought me out himself, and the feelings I had been fighting had only gotten stronger as he pursued me. Discovering that Alice didn't fault me for how I felt, and that she would stand by me no matter what, had changed my perspective. I didn't care what anyone else thought if I had the support of my best friend. She had liberated me from my shame and gave me confidence. That had been the catalyst for accepting my feelings for Mason, but it was the absolute failure of trying to deny them and be with someone else that had taken the fight out of me. That was a mistake that was better forgotten. Telling Mason about it would serve no purpose. No good could come from it, and it didn't matter anymore anyway. It happened before Mason became my real boyfriend. I marveled at that amazing fact. Mason was really my boyfriend. We weren't together because of a bet or some twisted game of blackmail, but because we wanted to be. His reaction to me telling him that I loved him had been to relinquish his hold on me by giving me back my poem so that I was with him of my own free will. All it had taken to claim me as his was a kiss. I knew that there was no turning back for me now that I had declared my feelings for him. By opening my heart and making myself that vulnerable to him, I had given him power over me. Taking that risk had turned out to be so thrilling that I was no longer afraid. The incredible rush kept me from realizing how bad the fall could be from this height, and why I had always played it safe before.